Chapter 21. Tabitha immediately went over to the control panel for the sliding glass wall and pressed some of the buttons. She stepped back as the glass wall began to open, and a moment later we were met with a cool autumn breeze. "I think that's my favorite feature of the whole house," she said with a nod. "Me too," Sybil agreed. "Want to sit on the patio?" "I'd love to," Tabitha said. "You coming, Hank?" "I'll come," a voice called over from the kitchen. Tabitha and Sybil stopped dead in their tracks and jumped. "Who the hell is that?" Tabitha asked. We'd had enough intruders for 1 week. But I knew that it couldn't be an intruder because even as it echoed throughout the house, the voice was familiar to me. In fact, I'd been hearing that voice for my entire life since the day I was born, whether I liked it or not. I'd put a note on the bottom of my house contract for Ava to have permission to collect some keys as well, just to make sure that she could come by in a moment's notice. I guess I'd forgotten to tell the girls that small detail. "It's me, silly," Ava called over from the kitchen. I heard footsteps, and Ava appeared with a newspaper in her hand. She was wearing her typical black leggings, a gray V-neck t-shirt, and moccasin slippers with fluffy socks. "Ava!" Sybil exclaimed, and she ran over to give my sister a hug. The two women embraced, and when Sybil pulled back, Ava gave the witch an appraising glance. "That's quite a cute look on you, Sybil," she said. "I don't think I've ever seen your legs exposed before. What made you lose the hippie dress?" "I'm just trying a new look," the witch replied with a grin. "We're matching," Tabitha said. "We wanted to look as American as possible." Ava took a good look at their little cheerleader outfits and nodded. "Well, I guess there's nothing as American as a cheerleader," my sister said. "And as long as Hank didn't force you to wear those sexy little costumes for his sick pleasure, I think it looks great." "Oh, come on," I replied and rolled my eyes. "I'd never do that." "That's good to know," my sister said playfully, "because I can just imagine what the press would say if they found out our local hero forced his girlfriends to dress like cheerleaders." She held up the newspaper in front of her face and dropped the bottom half so that it unfolded. There, on the front of the newspaper, was my face. At first I was confused as to where the picture came from, but when I squinted I saw that there was a big shelf of apples behind me. Someone must have taken a picture of me when I was talking to the police in Whole Foods, because I was also wearing the same shirt that I had on that day. "Local hero stops gunman," the headline read. "Hey," Sybil exclaimed. "That's you." "Yeah, where the hell have you been anyway?" Ava asked as she crumpled the newspaper. "I mean, at this point I know that you tend to disappear for like weeks at a time, but your car was in the driveway, and you left without even telling me that you were in town long enough to stop a robbery." I shot a look at the girls, who looked back to Ava and shrugged. "We've been spending a lot of time outside," Tabitha said. "Sybil likes foraging for squirrels." "Mushrooms," Sybil said. "You can't forage for squirrels." "Yeah, exactly," Tabitha trailed off awkwardly. "And I've been doing a digital detox," I said. It wasn't fully a lie. Life in Lupercalia was a digital detox, and it felt good to take a little time away from being addicted to the screens that I worked on when I was doing business. "A digital detox?" Ava groaned. "So you don't have the beans?" I hadn't expected to run into Ava on this visit, so I didn't have a fat sack of beans like I usually did on such occasions. Little did she know that the journey back took all of 5 seconds, and once she scooted off I could pick up a whole ton of beans in no time. "The beans are on their way," I said. "I'm having a delivery guy drive them up from the farm." "Ah," she nodded. "Perfect. We're good for another week." I was just being dramatic, I added. "No," Ava said with a frown. "I was just being careful," was what I was going to say. But I guess I was also being kind of dramatic. I get that from Mom. I smiled at the thought of our mother, who was a famously hot-blooded Italian American. My friends had adored her biting humor as well as her amazing cooking. She was also the source of the thick dark hair that Ava and I both had, though our blue eyes were from my dad's Irish side of the family. "Nothing wrong with having the business in mind," I said with a smile. "But what's all this about a local hero? While you were in digital detox, I've been practically acting as your PR agent, which you need to get, by the way," she replied. "Or at least some kind of assistant. Since Whole Foods paid that reward, people have been getting in touch left, right, and center." Hold up, I said as I put my hands out. "Did you say something about a reward?" "That sounds promising," Tabitha murmured in her velvety voice. God, you really have had your head under a rock, Ava said. I wanted to tell her that actually my head had been submerged in a lake, fighting a zombie werewolf, but I knew that wouldn't help anything. I guess I have, I said with a sigh and winked at Sybil. The witch blushed and put her hand up to her mouth to hide some giggles. Then she crossed her long smooth legs and rocked side to side in the sexiest way imaginable. Well, the guy you took out has been robbing other grocery stores in the area, Ava said. Several stores contributed to a reward for information. When they couldn't get in touch with you, they gave it to the shop instead. Oh hell yeah. Not only did I have a horse worth of moon silver heading back to me in Lupercalia, but I was also being awarded cash for hitting some guy with a frozen leg of lamb. I truly was the luckiest guy in the whole damn universe or metaverse or whatever it was that Lupercalia in New Jersey belonged to. The coffee shop seemed to be racking in more than enough cash on its own. Guy this lucky had to pay it forward at some point. How much is it? I asked. 50 grand, she replied. Holy fuck, I gasped. We'd had to work our asses off for the first 50 grand that our little bookshop made, but it got smoother after that. Now we were each making that in a month. Yep, Ava said and winked. But I've held on to it. I wanted to get your input before figuring out what we should do. Well, I said, seeing as the money came from helping others, I think it should go right back into the community. Why don't we donate it to food banks around the city? Seems fitting after holding up a robbery in a supermarket. That's an amazing idea, Sybil cooed. Very noble of you. Tabitha nodded sincerely in agreement. You're a true knight Hank. The very aspect of chivalry. Ava eyed Tabitha quizzically and then shrugged. Food banks are a good idea. Maybe it'll mean less robberies. Anyway, that's not even the most exciting thing you missed. Take a look at your emails. We've had an offer to open multiple coffee shops all over Jersey. And after that, they're talking Philly, Hartford, and even New York. Holy crap. The amount of money we would make if we were selling at this price in somewhere as busy as Manhattan was mind-blowing. Wait, I said. How many stores are we talking? They want to start with 5 overall, Ava replied. 5 coffee shops, Sybil exclaimed. That's going to take a lot of beans. Well, luckily, I started. We're expanding the bean fields and it's harvest season anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem in the long run. Your secret bean fields, Ava said and squinted at me. But who am I to question? You need to take a look at the profit estimates for the next year if we open 10 locations. Numbers that I didn't even think existed in the coffee shop business are on there. I nodded and felt the cool breeze from outside blow on my face. I'm gonna go get my phone from upstairs, I said. And then we can have a real talk about this expansion business. Don't you have a laptop here? My sister asked. Not yet, I said with a laugh and climbed up the stairs. We'll be by the pool. Sybil called from below. Maybe there's a zombie in the pool, Sybil, I heard Tabitha say. Oh, stop it, Tabitha, the witch groaned, and their voices faded as I reached the top of the landing. I peered over at the Calder Mobile and reminded myself to take the girls into the city to see some art as soon as I'd dealt with the business side of things. I'd take them to the Museum of Modern Art, the Whitney, and the Metropolitan, which I'm sure Tabitha would love for the rich and ornate decorations they had from the 1700s. I would also take them to the medieval herb garden at the cloisters up in the Bronx. Of course, the Abbey would be similar to buildings in Lupercalia, but I knew the girls would probably enjoy the unicorn tapestries and Sybil would love the herbs. I swung into my beautiful bedroom and stared at the minimalist room. First things first, I went to the end of the room and opened the balcony to let a little air in. We hadn't been in the house since before the quest, so the air was a bit stale. A few minutes of fresh autumn air would solve that problem, though. As I opened the door, I heard Sybil telling Ava about the fish of Blue Valley, and heard splashing. When I looked down, I saw that Tabitha had already stripped off her shirt and cheerleader skirt and was swimming around in her bra and underwear. It was definitely time to introduce the girls to the concept using actual swimsuits in case we ever went swimming in public. I went over to my nightstand and picked up my phone, which was plugged into the wall. I looked at the screen, and just as Ava had warned me, I found a barrage of notifications from the Gmail app. I saw one labeled Read Chain Offer and found a whole chain of emails trying to schedule appointment after appointment, none of which I'd been in town for. However, I saw that there was a final contract signing in 2 days' time, and I knew that I'd be able to stay a little while to make that. I really did need to get some kind of assistant as soon as possible. Most of the emails I'd received were news articles from the Whole Foods situation. However, I did stumble upon an invitation to attend Memicon in Arizona, which made me laugh out loud. I couldn't imagine myself going to a Memicon, but the thought was nice. I saw another email labeled Sundance invitation for Henry Baker and opened. I didn't even know what NYFF was, but my spidey senses were tingling. Dear Henry Baker, here at Joetown Coffee, we've heard only rave reviews about your Moonbean brew. From the wild backstory to the smooth and delectable taste of your special brew, we've fallen in love with your werewolf persona and all his adventures. I'm sure you're familiar with Joetown. We're the largest supplier of coffee in the tri-state area, which means most of the work that gets done thanks to Joetown Coffee. I bet you've woken up in the morning to a fresh cup of Joetown, whether it was made by your mom in the morning or bought in-store in one of our many locations in train stations, airports, and local high streets. And so, as fellow coffee lovers, we want to offer you the experience of a lifetime. Let us fly you and 5 of your best friends on one of our exclusive Joetown jets to the Sundance Film Festival. Our private jet has everything you could ever want at that altitude: entertainment, comfort, and most important of all, an unlimited supply of fresh coffee. And who doesn't love the movies? We want you to enjoy the best indie films of the year, and then you can meet with our VP of Sales to discuss why you should name Joetown Coffee as your exclusive distributor. We're so excited to start this journey with you, and we think there's no better way to start a journey than in style on the Joetown jet. Sincerely, Barney Converse, President, Joetown Coffee. I stared down at the email and blinked a few times. Joetown Coffee was inescapable, at least in this neck of the woods. It was true that if I racked through all of my memories, there was a good chance that Joetown was there, too. They really were a feat of modern business, and I couldn't believe that such a giant company would be interested in our niche, fairly DIY business. I thought we were the cult classic of coffee, but now it looked like we were heading mainstream. Having someone like Joe's Coffee on our side meant that the business had the potential to explode. This was something to discuss in great detail with Ava, but I had to let the girls know about some slightly more pressing matters. First, Sundance. I threw my phone on the ultrasoft bed and headed over to the balcony in my room. I stood and looked out onto the pool at the girls beneath me. Couldn't help but smile. Sybil and Tabitha, who were from another world entirely, chatting with Ava, who had been around to keep me in line from the second I was born. Hey Lady Ease, I called below. Ava put her hand over her brow and stared up at me. Oh look, it's the king of the castle, she called back. Did you check your emails yet? Course I did, I called down. I saw that Tabitha was paddling around underwater and waited for her to resurface. I couldn't wait to see the look on her face when I told them about the film festival. Come down, Hank, Sybil called up with a smile. I will soon, I said. Tabitha popped her head out of the water and wiped her platinum blonde hair from her face. Hey handsome, she croaked. Her husky voice didn't really do shouting, and I couldn't help but laugh. Either way, I preferred when she was whispering into my ear anyway. How would you girls all like to go to the Sundance Film Festival this year in a private jet? Ava's jaw dropped. Are you kidding? She asked. That's fucking amazing. Sign me right up. What do you mean a private jet? Sybil asked. Oh yeah, the girls hadn't exactly experienced air travel. It's a plane all to yourself, I said. Like a royal carriage that can fly. Joetown Coffee has offered me and 5 friends a private jet to the Sundance Film Festival. How does that sound? A film festival? Tabitha croaked. Does that mean we get to watch movies all day? Exactly, I shouted down and laughed. You get to watch the best films of the whole year in as much luxury as humanly possible. Woohoo-ee, Tabitha yelled and splashed back into the pool. So I'll take that as a yes from you all? I laughed. Sybil said. Now come down. I rushed out from the balcony back into my bedroom, and then ran into the hallway. I skipped down the steps and ran through my beautiful landing through the big entrance that led to the patio. I couldn't believe that life was this sweet. Hank, Sybil exclaimed and rushed up to me. When she was about a foot away, she pounced forward and landed directly in my arms. I clung to her soft, perfect body and swung her around. When I put her down, I saw Ava pretending to make puking noises. It was nice to know that old sibling. Habits died hard even when you were approaching 30. Here, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my old wallet, and then I pulled out my shiny black credit card. I pressed it into Sybil's palm, and she looked up at me. "Oh, Hank," she cooed. "What's this for?" "I want you girls looking as beautiful as possible for your red carpet debuts. Ava, I'm leaving it up to you to take the girls to the mall to pretty themselves up. I want it to be a surprise." "Hank," Sybil said and blushed. "You're the best." She put one hand on her hips and threw her fist in the air. God, she looked hot as hell. "Whoa," I said with a laugh. "You really are becoming quite the cheerleader. But don't take any advice from Ava. She didn't make the cheerleading squad in high school." "I heard that." She shot back and Tabitha cackled in the pool. "Oh yeah," I said. "And the girls need swimsuits." "Don't you worry," Ava replied. "Everyone will be looking spiffy as long as I can help it." "And after your trip," I added, "we have to talk over the most important part of this invitation, which is the Joetown involvement." "Don't worry," Ava said. "I'm an expert at schmoozing businessmen at this point." "Excellent," I said. Things couldn't be better. I felt like every opportunity in this world and in Lupercalia was opening up for me. It was like the moonbeam brew was running through my veins all the time. I felt a mix of excitement, pleasure, and complete control. Business was through the roof. I had the sexiest women on my side, and I was looking out onto a property that I couldn't have even imagined a year ago. I couldn't wait to get down to business, but an impulse came over me. Kicked off my shoes and ripped off my shirt like the animal I was. Then like a bat out of hell, I ran past the deck chairs and leapt in the air. I hit the water in my luxurious sparkling swimming pool with a crash, and I was enveloped in that sweet, cool, watery world. Life was pretty damn sweet, and I had a feeling we were only getting started. End of book.